Welcome to another episode, and it's the last episode this week of War Hero to Superhero, helping military, veterans, and first responders transform their lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. And this is November, so if you haven't seen it yet, it's November. Yeah, November is here. So what did we start thinking about before elections came up? We were actually thinking of something different, weren't we? We were thinking about holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas. We have Veterans Day next week, so thank you to all the veterans that have served in the past, in the present, and ones that are going in right now, because I know I'm sending people off to boot camp on a regular basis because I'm a training manager. So I want to thank you guys all for serving, no matter when you served, from World War I, World War II, or you're serving now in our new millennial force of Space Force. But our 2020 world has drastically changed and rebooted, hasn't it? We didn't expect this. Like, if you talked to me last Thanksgiving or Christmas, be like, hey, we're going to be in a pandemic, and it's going to be Black Lives Matter and race wars and political stuff and all those things, and people working at home and the shift. I'm like, we were eventually going to get there, but we expedited that, didn't we? So, not purposely. So we can easily lean towards the negative, right? We're like, but not on my watch. I'm done with the negative. I want to get away from the negative, and I want to empower you not to go over and be negative. So no matter if you're military, veteran, first responder, young or old, or in between, I want you to go over and to think on this month is being thankful. And what better place to start, no matter if you're single or married, this is preferably a married topic today, because the bedroom's usually referring to intimate couples, is better place to start in the bedroom. So what is being thankful? As we talked about the past couple days, is being thankful from Oxford's dictionary is being pleased or relieved or expressing gratitude or relief. But the question we probably ask for ourselves, and which we said we're going to talk about tonight, is why or why not am I thankful, especially when it comes in regards of being married? We thought we'd always be thankful. We went over and went down the aisle, and we were like, yeah, this is awesome. I get to be with the person I love. I get to have sex. I get to go over and mingle finances and homes together, and we get to share and build a life and a legacy. And I might be super thankful, and I might not be. Why? I mean, we always want to figure out the whys, right? So school is in session again, and this time it's more of a science class than anything else, because we're going to jump into theories. So we are jumping into 6 theories. Why or why not we are thankful. And I want to give credit to Psychology Today and some other websites I went and did. I did a cornucopia of research and also some internal introspective learning, and went over and came to these 6 different theories that why are we not we are thankful. So if you agree with them, I'd love to read it in the comments. If you don't, let's go over and bring it a dialogue, because there's always a dialogue. That's why we do it on social media, because when I did it on the radio, I didn't have to answer the line. I used to do radio. So the first theory that we believe that why or we are not thankful, especially in our marriage, is values are caught, not taught. The whole mirror neurons theory. So what happens is if the mirror neurons theory is if I go over and you see me and I start, you naturally want to smile right back. And that's the same thing that happened in marriage. You probably saw your dad and mom go over and either really be thankful in marriage or not be thankful in marriage and being bitter. So you brought that into the marriage and didn't even realize that happened. Sometimes we bring a lot of unconscious type values that we don't realize. Like you might have said when you were a kid, I'm never going to go do this when I get married, or I have kids, and guess what? You're doing the same thing that they're going over doing, because values were caught. They went back into that reticulating activating system and then went into long-term memory, and it became a value that you didn't even realize that you had. I see this in my kids all the time, that they do certain things that are like me, and I'm like, I want them to go over and to learn and to say, do it for the real reason that you have the why. But the natural thing is that they catch it. They catch it. When I was the ranting dad, now my son I'm having to go over and squash that. So if I'm naturally not thankful, then my son could be prolific, have the proclivity to go over and not be thankful. And that's the same thing, probably the reason why that I struggled for a long time in not being thankful, because I heard it all the time in that particular. So do you go over, and our first theory is, do you go over and see this, that maybe your parents weren't thankful, or the people that raised you, or the people that are in proximity of you? Did you catch a value that you didn't get taught, but it was caught just by going over and breathing it in? What about this, our next one? Our next theory is, if thankfulness is not recognized, then the negativity, or the negatives, I spelled that wrong. That's what happens when you're typing fast in the car before starting this, is that then the negative scale goes up. So for example, I go over and let's say pick up the closet, or pick up the room, or go over and clean the bathroom, or whatever it is, or maybe I did a massage for my wife, or whatever it is, or maybe you've done something for your spouse and whatnot, and they don't say anything. Well, you might go over and say, like, there's really no point for me to go over and do this, and then you get negative. Like, you do all these things, and you do all these things, and you do all these things, and it doesn't happen. So maybe the negativity scale goes over and goes up. Do you think that's true? I know I've seen it in myself, that if I don't get recognized, we even teach our kids to go over and say, what do you say when someone does something nice for you? Thank you. What is the natural repercussion that we teach in society? If you are not thankful, then people are probably less likely to go do things. So do you feel that it's happening in your marriage, that if it's not recognized, that you just become negative, become jaded, just become that type person? Or like I used to be, the ranting dad, the ranting husband? Theory number 3, when our thankfulness is pending on someone else's recognition, it tends to drop off. Have you ever done this at work, that you go over and do a project and you work on it day after day, week after week, month after month, and you don't get the recognition that you solely deserve? You see this all the time. I see this on Facebook. I tried 4 years. This is a recent post I read. It's like, I've been working 4 years for this company, and I got passed up because of the boss's cousin, and they're asking what to think. Well, you were hoping that you would get hired in that particular realm. So now it sounds like the person, and I don't know the exact context, is that they're going to tend to go over and drop off. And that's the same thing, is that if we're having our thankfulness pending on someone else's recognition, like making the bed or going over and doing whatever, then if you're not getting that recognition that you're making the bed or doing whatever, if you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, they had that specific episode with the couple with the blonde and the other guy, I can't remember his name right now. They're the ones that got married first, but they went over to my back and said, I have my chore chart right here. And it's like not getting recognized for the chores that he didn't go over and do. So maybe you drop off because you're expecting a thankfulness in a certain time. Maybe it's in minutes, maybe it's in hours, maybe it's in days, whatever it is. If we're still waiting and waiting for it, maybe our thankfulness drops off and we're not thankful for our spouse because we're expecting kudos back if we even acknowledge it. Number 4 is, if we look at thankfulness as a transaction rather than a way of being, we tend to go negative. Now, this one goes over and says, like, hey, if I go do X, then people will be thankful, or vice versa, that if I start being thankful, it's like a tick that I say, hey, I'm thankful for this and I'm thankful for that, and I change my mindset. Then I go over and say, if I do these many things, then things are going to go okay. Maybe even look at it from a long-term spiritual eternity type perspective, and you say that, hey, if I go over and do these things and then I change my mind, I change my heart, and then I'm thankful for things, then I go over and I get X, Y, or Z reward, spiritually or practically or anything else. And maybe because the transactions are not equaling out and you're like, I'm thankful for all these things, but nothing's happening for repercussion. Or I become thankful because I'm expecting to go and do that because I need to do it like a transaction. I was taught this as a kid, so I need to be thankful, so I do it, and I do it, and I do it, and I do it. and then my transactions don't pay off. So then we become negative. Instead of making it a way of being, that you do it because it's an essence that comes out of you instead of something that you have to do and it's habitual. Theory number 5. This is probably one of the biggest ones that I've gone over and seen in myself. I've seen this in marriages. I've seen this in constant, especially the older the marriage goes on this. In the young part of the marriage, this doesn't come up as much, but the older it is that we assume our spouse's presence, and I spelled that wrong, so I made an assumption. Presence is a right compared to a gift. Do you know people are divorcing every single day? They're not as high as 50% as everybody says, but people are divorcing every single day. Spouses are going over and dying. People are going. My father-in-law lost his wife like 6 months ago, and we assume that the presence is there, so we don't have to be thankful because they're going to be there. They're going to just continually be present because we're married for life. And the funny thing is, it doesn't matter if you have a spiritual background or not, that divorces happen in all regards, or people's lives get inhibited or impacted, or deaths go over and happen. So maybe that's the assumption of the theory, that the reason why we're not thankful is because it's assumed as a right. It's like when you go over and you're entitled to get a driver's license at 16, we don't realize how thankful that we are. My wife took 10 attempts to get her driver's license. She had a lot of difficulty and a lot of hard time to go get that. And when we assume something's a right, we're usually not thankful. We're fighting for it when it gets taken away, but we're not thankful that we have it in the process. And especially when we're married, and as we get older, we might say our spouse's presence is a right for us. They need to stay here. So I don't need to really be thankful for what they bring and what they deliver to the table each and every day. We're gifted with 86,400 seconds. That's a day's worth of seconds. And we don't realize that's a gift and not a right. So we can do the same thing with our spouse. So is that the theory, maybe the reason why we're not being thankful? And our last one is, if you receive thankfulness and gratitude in the wrong way, we can become negative. So in this particular regard, this one looks like this. It's like, if I am a person of words of affirmation and I do certain things for my spouse, and then they're giving me acts of service or quality time. So instead of giving me a thoughtful letter written of being thankful, they tend to go over and gift, and they say, hey, I'm so thankful for you. Here's chocolates, and you hate chocolates, and you hate getting small gifts, and you really don't want money being spent because you're looking at it for longevity and savings, and you'd rather have the person take 15 minutes, get a piece of paper, break out a pencil or pen, even old school, write cursive, that little love note for like a few minutes to go and do that. And maybe since you're not receiving it, the thankfulness or gratitude, in the wrong way, then you become unthankful and you become negative because of that reciprocating. So which theory goes over and ties to you? Is it one of those theories? Is it all those theories? I'd love to go over here in the comments, either here on Facebook, YouTube, or even Podopolo. Look, we got our first comment in a long time. Let's go see what it is. Abdel Kamara says, hey, thank you for joining. So how do we go over it? What do we do to go over and change it? So here's a couple of theories that I thought about going over and changing it. So again, these are all theories, and you go decide which one is practical for you to go over and to apply. So the first one, and I think this is the strongest one, I would think is a theory that I'm willing to do. And if you want to practice with me, that's great. Hold on one second. I'm trying to manage everything. Oh, I am doing well, Abdel. Thank you for going over and joining. All right. So the first one is mindset shift. Going from closet to bedroom to living room to boardroom. Our thankfulness and our gratitude, we're anticipating to go get this from the boardroom. They're supposed to be most thankful and most gratitude, and we give the most thankfulness and we give the most gratitude from the boardroom. And then it's supposed to pour into the living room and then pour into the bedroom. No. When we do it that way, we get disappointed on a regular basis. The mindset shift that we're talking about is it starts in the closet. And what do I mean by the closet? Your closet or your safe space or your private area or your car or a place that you, husband, or you, wife, get alone and change that mindset shift. That your thankfulness, if it comes and it's your soul being to get it from your spouse, you're going to be sadly disappointed. You should be getting this from your faith or from meditation or through books, changing your mind to go over and say that I need to be thankful for the things that I get and have been given compared to what I'm supposed to be, quote unquote, getting. Like, we have the blessing of a sunrise every single day. We have a blessing of going over and waking up. If you have faith, it's a blessing of God and his eternal riches. If you're coming from meditation, you might realize that just the way you go over and think and how your demeanor and your mood is. I wake up every day and I'm highly functional in my mind, and I am very thankful for going over and doing that because my sleep sucks, but I'm still thankful for that. And I need to take that in my safe place in my closet first before coming into the bedroom to get my thankfulness. If I make my wife the sole person I'm gonna receive my thankfulness and then also give my thankfulness based on that, or even worse, that I'm expecting my thankfulness to come from the boardroom, you're gonna be sadly disappointed in that particular regard. Is if you put your soul energy there. If it's a transactional thing, it's not gonna go work out well. So our theory is start in the closet, go over and find meditation. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's a mantra, maybe it's reading empowering things, going over and learning about joy through Julie Ann Meyer and her team, or following us and changing your mindset. Whatever it is, start in that closet. Maybe your closet is going over and grabbing your phone and downloading the new app of Podopolo and finding your favorite podcast and going over and listening to that, and then dynamically, interactively connecting. We're one of those podcasts, and there's about 50 more and growing each and every day, and that might be your closet time to go connect to Podopolo and go get that dynamic time of going over and doing that mindset shift on your thankfulness and gratitude. Our next theory to go over and change that is getting your doctorate degree in your spouse. Now, what does that mean? If you ever read our book, Leave No Marriage Behind, and it's chapter 11 or 12, I'm a little rusty, I haven't looked at my book in a while, is that most important degree to go over and get is in your spouse. You can become thankful and have gratitude when you realize who your spouse is, their love languages, their moods, their tones, what they go over and bring to the marriage in that particular garden. If you're continually going over and studying your spouse, you'll realize what he or she is bringing to the table, and then your gratitude and thankfulness can be there. Remember when we first were married, we studied our girlfriends or boyfriends like crazy. We knew every little nuance. We were thankful for the sparkle in their eye, the eye color, the hair. You saw the streak of their beauty from a sunset or what they went over and wear. You're very much appreciative and thankful for so many things. And as we got married, we became expecting this quote unquote entitlement right now, and it's a gift. So as we focus back into getting our doctorate degree in our spouse, our bachelor's degree in our kids, and our associates with our friends and colleagues, we would learn to be thankful in the right place. The next theory of going over and how to change it is let go of the return. And what I mean by this let go of the return is that you do something. You go over and you pick up the bedroom. You pick up your dirty socks. You actually lock the door, which I don't lock the door, or go over and give the keys back and put it back in her purse, or I ask her to put it in the mailbox. And if I'm expecting a return back for my quote unquote investment, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Maybe the way you become more thankful is you let go of the return. You solely do this stuff for your spouse or anybody else in your life, as we talk about next week in the living room and next week and the following week in the boardroom, is we let go of the return. We do it for the sole fact that we want to serve our spouse, our kids, our coworkers, instead of going over and saying like, come on, I'm expecting a thank you. I'm expecting a small gift. I'm expecting some physical touch. I'm expecting some words of affirmation. I think we need to let it go. Now, I'm not saying that you never get any love and affection through the love languages, but if you let go of the anticipation and allow people to serve out of their gratitude and thankfulness instead of just be like, I need this to continue to do this, you'll do a lot better. I used to do that on a regular basis. I expected my wife to start going, as I did into the love languages and the personality stuff, she's going to change. She's going to go more. She's going to do everything else. There's a great book I read called The DNA of Relationships. You change for your transformation. You don't change for theirs. And as you transform, the hope and the goal is that they see your transformation and it outpours, and then they want to do the same because they saw your life so transformed and changed. They wanted to do the same, and then they wanted to outpour their love and their gratitude and their thankfulness back towards you. That's the goal in the heart. But when we do it for the fact of the return, yeah, if I do these great things and I hold on for a month, 2 months, 6 months, some people hold on for 30, 40 years and they're not getting the return, and then they become bitter. It's good to go and express and have those conversations, and that's another podcast another time. But the thing is that if we hold out for the return, we might be sadly disappointed for years and decades to come, and we don't truly be thankful and have the gratitude for the person that we married. Also, next theory is to go over and learn to change is look at thankfulness as spiritual versus transactional. That you choose this as a way of being instead of a way of doing. I do these things, I have this expectation, I do these checklist box. I do it because of the outpouring of my heart compared to the outpouring of whatever comes out of it. Because if we expect our love tank to be solely filled, let's talk about the love languages, solely filled by continually pouring into my spouses in there, you're going to get exhausted. What if they don't have the physical capacity as you go over and get older? Marriages go over and change. My father-in-law's wife died 6 months ago. It was a long time that he was going over and serving. There was not much that she could physically go over and do to serve him. And if that was his love language, he could have been dying inside, but he looked at it as from a spiritual return instead of a transactional return. And it was the outpouring of himself transforming compared to getting something out of it. And our last theory of what do we do to change, and this is on the mindset. We're not entitled to our spouse. They are a gift. When we realize it's a gift and we got it from the gift giver, and depending on where you sit, it might be from your God or from a blessing above or divine intervention or how you met, is that when we see our spouse as a gift that we received, we become thankful, we become gratitude on that. And that's the best gift that we can ever have is our spouse. There is no Christmas, Thanksgiving thing or Best Buy 2020 catalog, which came on my table today through the mail. It's one of the first things I've kept in a long time. I'm like, ooh, this mail I actually like. Even that Best Buy 2020 list that comes out can never go and replace who my spouse is. And there's no amount of money that I can be given and say like, hey, we'll give you this money to go trade in your spouse. Oh, I'm entitled, she'll stay. No, she's a gift and I treat her as a gift. I've been gifted many things, and the thing is that when you steward it well, then it's fruitful. When you think you're entitled to it, guess what happens? It's kind of like a hotel when you pay for it. Do you take care of it? Maybe. Come on, I trash hotels. I've thrown towels in one of the jacuzzi tubs because I could, because I thought I was entitled. I wasn't. So, our spouses are a gift. They're not a hotel. All right, our superhero challenge of the day and to end the week. So if you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or Podopolo, where you can gamify your podcast, no matter where it is, we would love for you to engage. Especially on Podopolo, our gamified app is that you get private groups and subgroups to go over and to grow yourself from that war hero to superhero. So our superhero challenge today is ask your spouse how grateful they think you are. It's not going to be an easy question, but that's why it's a superhero challenge. So if you don't have your cape on, don't jump into this challenge because you might need those superpowers. And when you do that, bite your tongue and listen And I mean truly listen, actively listen. Get a notebook and take notes. These little books are great. And ask how you can improve. And you're doing that more for not the return, but for the heart change. So that is pretty much it. We ended our week in thankfulness. I want to thank you all for going over and joining. I seriously appreciate it. No matter if you're on for a few seconds or for several minutes, or you watch us in the reruns on the replay, we love to go and engage you. No matter if it's a few comments or a lot of comments, we're truly thankful you on Facebook, on YouTube, on Periscope, on the Easy Way wall, even on Roku, even eventually on Podopolo live streaming soon. So this will be in replay. We are very much thankful that you go over and are here. And no matter if you engage or not, we're thankful for you. And we hope that you are joining us next week to talk about thankfulness in the living room, how to actually go apply this. And last, and certainly not least, with every single episode, if you are struggling within the bedroom on thankfulness, we want to be here for you. So every military veteran first responding gets 20 minutes free. You can find us on Facebook, find us on YouTube, send us a direct message. We can coordinate a time to give you 20 minutes free to see how we can go and help and go over and serve you. Either myself or one of our War Heroes Superhero consultants can go over and connect with you to help you to go over and thrive. And if you want to go take your marriage to the next level and become that marriage superhero, which you can engage either on Podopolo or going straight to patreon.com/thrive-not-survive and become that marriage superhero for a price of a cup of a coffee or pretty much your hand, you can go over and start that marriage superhero track. And once you start, guess what? You have contextualized time with me, because right now it's open season for patreon.com for us. So basically, if you start, you will be the first few that will have that dedicated time with me. As we go over and grow, it's going to be more asynchronous. So go over and join there or on Podopolo to go over and to start your marriage superhero track. So we want to thank you for going over and joining. We hope to see you next Tuesday when we reboot and we go into a different room, to the living room, to take thankfulness and now go over and deliver it as holistically to the people that live in your house, either kids or adults, because I have adult parents here. Adult grandparents here. So I want to thank you all for joining. Again, always, always, always a dialogue, never a monologue. So if you put a comment in there, we'll engage.